So OAuth, finally, you'll get the explanation what OAuth is. OAuth is essentially a way to get the access token when there are third-party applications involved. So this is standard which everybody uses, and Power BI supports the standard as well. But it's much more complicated. If you remember from my last video where I integrated Notion with Power BI, the authentication was much more simple. I just retrieved the API token and I sent it with every request, and I received this protected resource. And as you can see with Xero, it's much more complicated. You have to perform all these steps before you can get your invoices. These are the invoices. This is Power BI. This is your app, but it could be any other app that you want to integrate with Xero. So this can be an app from a third-party provider, and this third-party provider does not own the invoices. You do. So you are called a resource owner here. And what you need to do is authorize this third-party app. So tell Xero that you trust this third-party app and approve what the scopes that the application is asking for. And this is all done here in the first step. So what Power BI will do is it'll send this authorization request, and it'll open up a small Chrome window and present you with Xero login. You'll need to input your username and a password, and you'll need to confirm that you trust Power BI, your custom connector. And this is what's called an authorization request. And if this goes well, then you will also receive a authorization code. And then you need to go, and this is all done within one endpoint. And then you need to exchange this authorization code for access token. And so you need to send this authorization code to what's called an authorization server, and this server will finally issue the access token for you. And then what you need to do is, with this access token, you can pass it with every request you send to Xero endpoints, and you'll just get these protected resources. With Xero, there's an additional complication because inside Xero, you can have multiple companies. So if I go check here, I have my demo company here, but I also have this Lotus Dog Shop company, which is just another company that I have as well. So I need to pass this, a company is called a tenant in API's terminology. So I need to get the list of companies, and then whenever I want to get my invoices, I need to pass the access token that I received and my company ID as well. Now, you might have noticed this code challenge and code verifier because we're using what's called a PKCE flow. This is a special flow. It's also very standard. This is nothing that Power BI wouldn't support. But yeah, there are some additional complications. So in a normal kind of OAuth flow, you would supply what's called a secret code. But here, because you can't secretly store the secret code on your client's machines, you need to create the secret code on demand. And what this secret code is, this is what's called a code verifier. This is just a random string. And if you check down below here, you can see creating a code verifier. So code verifier is a random string, so nothing special. It's just a random string, but it follows some specific rules. So it must be of this length, so between 43 and 128 characters, and it must not include any other characters apart from capital and lowercase A to Z, and the numbers and this punctuation that's here. And this is what's called a code verifier. But code verifier is only used here, so only after we are trying to exchange this authentication code for an access token, we need to specify the code verifier. But above here, we need to specify the code challenge. And the code challenge is actually just this code verifier, but encoded. So to make a code challenge out of a code verifier, you need to convert it to ASCII. If you follow these rules, then it's already ASCII. And then you need to make an SHA-256 hash out of it. This is a very standard hashing mechanism, but it essentially converts your string into a code which cannot be traced back to the original code verifier. That's the whole gist of it. And what this returns, it returns random characters, so we need to also encode this using base 64. This sounds very scary, but this is actually just one line of code inside Power Query SDK, so don't worry about it, just keep in mind that that's what it is. So yeah, this was the OAuth flow, and you might notice different blocks here. So Xero user, this is you, and this means that there needs to be your presence. This first step will always be interactive. So when you try to get the authorization code, you need to be present. You need to enter your username and password by hand. This cannot be done by machines, as it was the case in Notion's case. So you need to be present, and then this authorization code will be exchanged for the access token. This can be done non-interactively, so your presence is no longer needed. But yeah, these access tokens actually expire, and they expire very fast. So what you need to do is you need to refresh them. But you don't remember having to enter username and password very often when you're working with other connectors in Power BI, do you? So yeah, exactly, that's the case. So instead of entering the username and password again, you can use what's called a refresh token. And this refresh token has a longer validity span. And you can exchange this request token for access token non-interactively, so you don't have to bug the user to enter the username and password every time. You can just use these refresh tokens and refresh the access token this way. And I'll walk you through the exact steps how to do that soon. But that's the OAuth flow. If you want to learn more about it, just let me know down in the comments and I can make another example, maybe even more generic one.